Hello everyone, you are watching Naresh Academy YouTube channel. Now I am going to explain the complete Indian economy in a simplest way. It may be possible because we have already uploaded a simplest version of Indian history, Indian geography, Indian constitution and polity in both Hindi and English medium. So you may take help from these videos, and after listening these videos you can take help from our MCQ series for targeting the different exam. What kind of questions now are asking in the GK, and we are covering all these kinds of information in our lectures and the objective questions, and we are providing answer writing session at the Jaipur Center for the IAS mains exam and the RAS mains exam. So many valuable information from our website you can read, you can download, and you can obtain in the different ways. So now let's start the basic concept of economies and the economics. So this is a general question among the different students: are the economies and the economics same or quite differ to each other? So this is the general views. What do you mean by the economics, and what is the economy? Very simple. Economics is a one kind of social science. It is a social science which study the production, distribution and consumption in a specific economy of a country. What kinds of goods and services are produced in a country's economy, and how these goods and services are distributed to their peoples, and what is the behavior or interaction of the peoples with their government. So these are all studied under the economics. And in the 18th century, economics got the independent status of a stream. Now it has become a separate subject, and this was the Adam Smith, a Scottish philosopher and economist. In 1776, through a political economy, he explained the terms economics and the economy. So the Adam Smith is known as father and founder of economics, and we can compare the Adam Smith with the Kautilya, also called Chanakya and Vishnugupta. He was born in Chanak village of Taxila region, Pakistan. His birth name was Vishnugupta, and due to his diplomatic mind called the Kautilya. The Kautilya was the prime minister in the court of Chandragupta Maurya in the 4th to 3rd century BCE. And the Kautilya wrote an important book which is called the Arthashastra. So it should not be confused with the economy or economics. Arthashastra does not emphasize the economic activities or economics. Basically it is a text on polity, governance, administration. So the text of Kautilya completely differ from the Adam Smith's speech and so many texts of the Adam Smith. And what is the economy now? Economy, which is called the Arthvyavastha. Economy is a set of practices or technologies. What kind of practices or technologies are adopted by government or the peoples to produce different kinds of goods and services within a economics. So definitely economy derives from the economics. So economy is a derivative term, yani it comes after the economics and it derives from the economics. In economy mainly it is emphasize how much production of goods and service to be targeting their peoples and how these goods and service should be distributed, channelized to their peoples, and what is the consumption behavior of a peoples of the particular communities, and according to their interaction and community behavior, the production and distribution of goods and service is sometimes changed. So the economy basically includes all the practice, technology and behavior of the human beings in a particular economy of a country. So definitely economics is a science where simply theoretically these things are studied. Then in another way we can say, in economics the economic activities are now studied and economics suggest to the government how should be modified or change the economic activity. So economics provide the technical guidance or assistance to the economy. So this is the general difference and relationship. So definitely we can say they are different and in another way they are interrelated to each other. The next is, what are the type of economies? There are two main types of economy throughout the world. One is the capitalist economy. Capitalist economy, or another is the socialist economy. Socialist economy. We can compare these economies or then we will talk about the Indian economy. In capitalist economy, mainly capitalist class or industrial class has ownership right and authorities over the means of production and the wealth. But in case of socialist economy, this is the government, union or state government have authorities over the means of production. Second, in the capitalist class has absolute liberty and under which they can produce whatever they want and they can produce everything according to their choice and there is no limit over the productions. And here the liberty is the main element in the capitalist economy. But in socialist economy, government is the sole producer mainly. The capitalist class has the least liberty because government determine the production lines, so the capitalist class are not given what kind of liberty or freedom they want. Third is, in the capitalist economy there is a competition between the different capitalists or industrialists, but in socialist economy there is no scope for competition, or sometimes we can say this is the least competitive economies. Or fourth, in the capitalist economy consumers are targeted, mainly company produce the goods and services to targeting their consumers. The consumer first, the concept in capitalist economy, but in the socialist economy government mainly produce targeting all the countries or economy or societies. Specific customers are not targeted as is done under the capitalist economy. So these are the main differences in the economies. And now what is the type of Indian economy? So definitely we can say Indian economy is not absolutely capitalist economy or socialist economy. The Indian economy has the features of both these economy. So we can say the Indian economy is a mixed economy. Indian economy is a mixed economy because here the union government, the state government and Tata Ambani likes capitalist class are working together, and government under the different laws are providing liberties or freedom for the capitalist class, but they have no absolute liberty which is found under the capitalist economies. And the mixed economies further have their pros and cons, advantage and disadvantage. This is the another aspect of discussion. Next is the sectors of economies. What are the different sectors of the economies? The sectors of economy. All the countries, developed and the developing countries, have conventionally the three sectors: the primary sector, secondary sector and the tertiary sector. This is the conventional pattern, tertiary sector. And in the 21st century, advanced sectors have evolved which is called the quaternary sector. The quaternary sector, and which is also called the knowledge based economy. This is the knowledge based economy. Primary sector includes the agriculture, livestock, forestry and the minerals. The primary sector mainly produce the raw materials, and this raw material is used by the secondary sectors. So that is why we are saying this is secondary, because it exists at the second place after the primary. Secondary sector includes the constructions, different kinds of construction activities, and the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing sector, which includes the industries and the factories. And third is the supply of water, gas and the electricity. So this is the secondary sector. Both primary and secondary sector produce different kinds of goods, and these goods are distributed to their peoples, and some part of these goods is exported. Primary and secondary sector are interrelated. So definitely secondary sector totally based upon the primary sector. In the absence of primary sector, there is no scope for the secondary sector. And the tertiary sector include the financial services like the banking and insurance, and the transport, communication, or the foreign sector. The tertiary sector also called the service sector because it does not produce goods, simply provides services to both primary and secondary sector for the productions. Through its banking facilities, it empowered the primary and secondary activities for the more production, and through transport and communication, it helped the sector for the speedy distribution and allocation of these things in the remote areas. So basically primary, secondary, tertiary sector are related to each other. In India, the primary sector is still holding dominance, providing the employment or job. It is not a good tendency, because when we talk about the America, Japan, Britain, France, Holland, where the primary sector provides only the 1% employment, but in India it is a dominant sector. In America or other developed country, the tertiary sector is providing the highest jobs and generate the highest revenue. In India, However, the tertiary sector generates maximum revenue for the national income, but is not providing the highest jobs in India. So, we have to skip, we have to convert or divert our economy on these models. This is the basic leg of the Indian economy. And now, one more information about the quaternary sector. Quaternary sector is called the knowledge based economy. Knowledge based economy means conventionally if any person does not have the agriculture, land, livestock or hold over the construction or manufacturing sectors, and he is not settled in the tertiary sector, but he has a innovative ideas, too much advanced knowledge, through which he can started his initiatives in India or in the other countries, and through which he can create multiple jobs like the consulting services, under which from the India so many scholars or intellectuals are providing the legal services, medical services, academic services, and through which they are receiving too much money. And now it has become an important part through the IT, information technology, which has become a backbone to the knowledge based economy. So, the quaternary sector or knowledge based economy now have become an important segment of all the economies. No country can deny this sector. In future, definitely it will be the basic part or the important part of the economies. Primary and secondary sector definitely will lose their importance in the future. The next is a general concept of the national income. So, what do you mean by the term national income? So, then the national income of any country, simply we will talk about the India. The topic is the national income. There are so many aspects of this. So, we will discuss simply. In India, who calculated the national income first? This is the question for GK. The first calculated the national income, this was the Dadabhai Nauroji. Dadabhai Nauroji, the Congress leader from Calcutta, who first calculated the per capita income in India 1867 to 68, and who assumed it was the 20 rupees the per capita income of India. And after that, so many scholars have made effort in this direction. This was the VKRV Rao in 1931-32, and after that the M. Vishvesvaraya, engineers or economist of the Karnataka. So, this was the Vishvesvaraya, Mokshgundam Vishvesvaraya. He wrote a book, The Planned Economy of India, and he advised then the Congress leaders to forming important committees for the systematic plannings of the country. And on the advice of Vishvesvaraya, in 1938, a National Planning Committee was formed, which was chaired by the J.L. Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, and the Mokshgundam Vishvesvaraya is called now the founder of economic planning in India. The National Income Committee, which is also called the National Planning Committee, consisting the so many members, and they provided the different kinds of format for the calculation, estimating of incomes and the other activities of economy. And in the presently, this is the CSO, Central Static Office, under the Static and Program Implementation Ministry of Center Government. CSO was established in 1951, its headquarters at Delhi. Mainly it publishes NAS, National Accounts Statistics, under which he published or compiled the data of India's national income, data of per capita income, and so many statistical data. So, the National Account Statistic is called the white paper of Indian economy. The CSO now is accountable for compiling, publishing or calculating the India's national income or the per capita income under the Union Ministry. Next is the national incomes generally as assumed as the synonym of the GDPs, the gross domestic product, and they are calculated or measured on the two bases. One is the market price, national income at the market price, also called the current price, and national income at the constant price or at the base years. The market price concept is applicable in all the developed countries like America, Germany, Japan, and estimation of national income at the base year or constant price generally is used in the underdeveloped economies, and India is a one country such like of economies. And next is different types of GDPs. The GDP here we are taking as the synonym of national income, however it is not appropriate term, but generally for the simplification the GDP we are using in the science of national income. There are three kinds of GDPs. One is the nominal GDP. The nominal GDP, the GDP at the market price or the current price, in which the total production of goods and services multiplied the prevailing price of the each goods and service. The nominal GDP is a more popular concept of GDP. Second is the real GDP. Real GDP mainly emphasize over the base price or the base year. The base year a concept in which after every 10 years, however it may be after the 5 years, generally the 10 years base is done in Indian economy. The government then estimate the previous 10 years production data for comparing the recent or the present data, and through which we can drive the variations of production and the prices of goods and services. So, real GDP, or third is the virtual GDP. Virtual GDP is not a actual concept, in which mainly it is considered if the production of goods and services is not increasing, it is decreasing, but the prices of these are increasing. So, definitely when we multiply the total amount of production with the increasing prices, so definitely it will present the higher amount or the higher level of GDP. So, it is the false GDP, it is not now applicable. And next is the what are the methods of estimation of GDP. The method how the GDP is measured, method and the measurement of the GDPs. Mainly there are the three methods. One is the income method. Income method through which we measured some part of economy, those sectors generating income in a cash. In India this is the tertiary sector where the income is generated in the cash. The tertiary sectors production is measured through the income method. Second is the product method. The product method, mainly it is applied in a primary sector or some part of the secondary sector where the manufacturing goods are produced. So then produce methods also, product method is also used in the Indian economy. And third is the income method, product method, or third is the consumption method. Consumption method mainly is not applicable in Indian economy, and in India, in the place of consumption method, this is the expenditure method. Expenditure method is used in which the incomes of construction sectors, which is estimated in the form of expenditure, how much amount he has spent to complete the different kinds of construction, so then it is included in the part of national income. So there are the three methods of measurement or estimation of the national income. In any country they are used. Next is the different concept of the national income. The different concept of the national income. This is my effort to explain in a very simplest way, so I am trying my best. First is the GDP. GDP term, the first, it means the gross domestic product. Gross, the term gross is not similar to the total, which includes all the activities of private sector or public sectors. So GDP is a final production of goods and services in a specific year within a economy of country. So in a specific year, for example 2020 to 2023, this is a specific year. In this year, what is the volume of production of goods and services from the all primary, secondary and tertiary sector? So generally it is considered the GDP, gross domestic product. Second is the NDP. Here the term N stands for the net domestic product. Net means what? When we produce different kinds of goods and services from primary, secondary, tertiary sector, so then producers have afford some losses of the tools and technologies, and the some losses of using these technologies and tools are deducted, and they are called the depreciation. So when we deduct the difference depreciation from the GDP, depreciations from the GDP, so then the NDP is derived. NDP, the net domestic product. Okay, so without deducting the depreciation, so this is called the GDP. The third concept is the GNP. Here the term G, gross, is same, but D have replaced by the N. So here N term, the national, gross national product or the gross national income. Then when we move from the GDP to NDP, or then third the GNP, definitely now each country is involving export, import and foreign trades. So when we add or deduct import or export amount with the NDP, so then we can derive the GNP. So mainly the export or the import, so it depends over the country and varies country to country. Some countries have the more export, some have the less export. In India, mainly the imports volume is higher than the exports, so the amount we have deduct from the NDP. So the size of GNP is low or less than the NDP. And the fourth is NNP. Again, here the term N means net, the net national product. Same, when a government or any producers is using the transport facility through the sea route for their export and import, so definitely he is paying some amounts for these services, and he is affording some losses, and these are called again the depreciations. So when we deduct the depreciations from the GNP, so then NNP is derived. And at the fifth, this is the PCI, the per capita income. What is the per capita income? So when we divide the total population of a country, into the NNP, so then PCI is derived, per capita income. And the sixth is the personal income. What is the personal income? Personal income, how can we derive the personal income? From the PCI, when we reduce the corporation tax and the other liabilities of the corporation, then we derive the personal income. Or last is the personal disposable income, PDI, the personal disposable income. So when we deduct income tax and other liabilities of the persons or the employees from the personal income, then we deduct mainly the income tax from the personal income, definitely the PDI is derived. Or this is the absolute income of any individual, because he has paid all kinds of responsibility towards their country, society. So the remaining income is absolutely for the use and consumption of the individuals, and he has the absolute right. So this is the concept of national income, from GDP to the personal disposable income. Now next is the plannings in India. Plannings, important topic, the planning. First, the concept of economic planning or planning in India has been taken from the USSR, United States of Soviet Russia, now the Rus. When the USSR was dissolved in 1991, so Russia is the representing country of the USSR now. Where the first in 1928 the concept of 5-year planning or planning was adopted in India. Before the independence, a national planning committee was formed. National planning committee was formed in 1938 on the advice of Mokshgundam Visvesvaraya, and in previous lecture we have discussed the Visvesvaraya is called father and founder of planning in India. When the Jawaharlal Nehru became the chairman of the National Planning Committee, then who presented a format before the Congress, because that time Congress was leading the country. And after the independence, Jawaharlal Nehru became the first prime minister of country. Definitely now he was determined to execute these ideas at the grassroots level. So first a planning commission organization was constituted. Planning commission established on 15th March 1950. Prime Minister was the chairman of planning commission, but the chief minister of different states were not the part of planning commission, and this commission was responsible for forming the 5-year plannings and all the estimation of the resources of the country. But in 2014 it was dissolved and replaced by the Niti Aayog. So, this is the Niti Aayog working since the 2015, and it is also presided over by the Prime Minister of a country. But in Niti Aayog, from the beginning, the Chief Minister of all the states are the members. So, this is the basic difference. And the Planning Commission formed different kinds of 5-year plannings. The 5-year plannings, and they were finalized by the NDC. This was the another organization, National Development Council, formed on 6th August 1952, and this NDC was also presided over by the Prime Minister, and it has also dissolved. So, both organization, Planning Commission, NDC have dissolved, and Niti Aayog has replaced these organization. The Niti Aayog is working at the place of Planning Commission or NDC now. But the 5-year plan now have ended. So, then the concept of 5-year planning from the 1951 to 2017. After the 12th 5-year plan, there is no 5-year plans, because the Niti Aayog now adopted the different approach. Next is the general information about the different 5-year plannings. A simple view, overview. The first 5-year plan, started from 1951 and continue till the 1956, and this was based upon the Herard-Domer model, the HD models it followed. And the second 5-year plan, 1956 to 1961, and this was based upon the Mahalanobis model, PC Mahalanobis, Praful Chandra Mahalanobis, a chief economist or statist, and the Mahalanobis model emphasized the foundation of the heavy industries or the large scale industries than the cottage or the small industries. And the advice of Mahalanobis in India, the important steel plants were started, the Durgapur steel plant, West Bengal, and Bhilai steel plant in Chhattisgarh, and there were some other steel plants. And this was the third 5-year plan. During 1961 to 66, and this is based upon the John Sandy and Sukhmay Chakrabarti models. After that, there was a break in the 5-year plans, and this phase during 1966 to 1969 is called the plan holiday. The plan holiday, because that time there was a Indo-Pak war. India was busy in a battlefield against the Pakistan, so the 5-year plans were cancelled. Next, the fourth 5-year plan. The fourth 5-year plan during 1969 to 74, and this was the fifth 5-year plan, 1974 to 79, but it was ended before a time in 78. The fifth 5-year plan was the only plan which was ended before that time, and in this plan Indira Gandhi shouted a slogan to elevation of poverty, Garibi Hatao. And another question, the fifth 5-year plan was reduced from 5 to 4 years by the Morarji Desai. This was the Morarji Desai Prime Minister that time, and during the 1978 to 1980 a new concept, rolling plan, was started in India. Rolling plan for every year, and this concept has been taken from the Gunnar Myrdal. After that, the next 5-year plan during the 1980 to 85, then 7th 1985 to 90, or again there was a break 1990 292, and this is again the age of a period of the rolling plan, and after that the successive 5-year planning continue, and finally this was the last, the 12th 5-year plan ended in 2017. Okay, so there is no 5-year plan in the present time. Now the concept of banking and share markets in India. Banking and the share market. Some questions are asked from this topic, so very important. Banking sector, and first we start from the establishment of different bankings. The oldest bank of India was the Bank of Madras, or the Madras Bank, in 1683. So this was the Madras Bank. But after this, in 1720, Bank of Bombay, 1770, Bank of Hindustan. The Bank of Hindustan became landmark for the establishment for the banking sector. Later on, the British government founded the 3 presidency banks. Presidency banks, the Bank of Kolkata 1806, Bank of Bombay 1840, Bank of Madras 1843. So these presidency banks in 1921 named as the Imperial Bank. Okay, Imperial Bank, and in 1955 the Imperial Bank was renamed as the SBI, the State Bank of India. State Bank of India. So State Bank of India is the largest public sector's bank, but SBI is not a nationalized bank. You must know, is not a nationalized bank but a public sector bank, which means the government has the highest share of the SBI. SBI has played for some year as a central bank of country when there was no Reserve Bank of India. Later on, this was the Awadh Commercial Bank in 1881, based upon the limited liabilities, but the entire board was under the Indians. And fourth, this was the Punjab National Bank in 1894, have the complete authority or the all kinds of liabilities. The first running Indian banks, the Punjab National Bank 1894. After that, there is a history, development history of the different kinds of banks. Now the RBI, Reserve Bank of India. RBI was established in 1935. Before this, in 1926, Hilton Young Commission recommended for the foundation, and 1934 RBI Act was passed. RBI Act, under which RBI was founded in 1935, and 1st January 1949 RBI was nationalized. So it is the nationalized bank and the Central Bank of India. This is the Central Bank of India. RBI has board of governance of the 20 members, in which there is a 1 governor, 4 deputy governor and 60 others. The accounting year of RBI is from the July to June, 31st July to 30 June, and the headquarter of RBI is in Mumbai, and which is called the Dalal Street. It has been asked in a question, Dalal Street. So Dalal Street is a headquarter of the RBI. Okay. Now the different kinds of functions of the RBIs. First, RBI is a bankers to union government and the state government. It manages the exchange rate, and the currencies are printed by the RBI currency issuing. The 1 rupees currency note is printed by Government of India under the Finance Ministry, and all the coins are minted by the Government of India, and the 1 rupees note is signed by the Finance Secretary under the Union Government. But above the 1 rupees currency note, all the notes 2 rupees, 5 rupees, 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, they are printed and signed by Governor of RBI. So this is the difference between rupees 1 and rupees 2 notes. Second is RBI determine the rate of interest over the saving accounts. In India, the interest rate over the saving accounts is determined by the Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India mainly controls all the banks in India through the Banking Regulation Act 1949, under which he issued its monetary policy. Important question: monetary policy is made by the Reserve Bank of India, while the fiscal policy is made by the Union Government or the Finance Ministry. There are two kinds of tools under the monetary policy. One is the quantitative measures or the quantitative tools, okay, or another is the qualitative or the selective measures, qualitative and the selective measures. Under the quantitative measures, Reserve Bank of India applied mainly the bank rate. What is the bank rate? A rate at which other banks can borrow money from the Reserve Bank of India. And what is the interest rate? Interest rate is determined by the other commercial banks except the RBI, while the bank rate is determined by only the RBI, and rate of interest are always higher than the bank rates. Second, CRR, cash reserve ratio, is a ratio of amount in cash which is kept by all the commercial banks to the Reserve Bank of India. And next is the SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. Other than the cash, different kinds of assets are deposited by the commercial banks, and now these banks are also bound to keep a specific proportion ratio to the banks under the guidance of Reserve Bank of India. And the open market operations, last, in which these are the repo rate and the reverse repo rate. Repurchasing option repo. Repo rate, the rate at which in the emergency period when the commercial banks takes money or borrow money from the RBI, and then RBI charge the higher rate of interest. And the reverse repo, sometimes Reserve Bank of India borrow money from the other commercial banks but paid the less rate of interest to the other banks. So these are the quantitative measures, and there are some different kinds of the selective or qualitative measures to impose the margin money and to provide the moral guidance to the banking sectors. There are the other banks in India. One is the NABARD Bank, the apex bank for agriculture or rural areas. NABARD Bank was established in 1982. Okay. Second, for the import and export facilitation, Exim Bank, Export and Import Bank, again in 1982. And this is the next, the IDBI Bank, Industrial Development Bank of India, in 1964, and the SIDBI, Small Scale Industrial Development Bank of India, SIDBI, in 1990. Its headquarter at Lucknow, not Mumbai, while all the banks have their headquarter mainly Lucknow. And next is the this is the regional banks, regional rural banks, RRBs. In India, RRBs are founded by the cooperation of Union Government. Union Government takes the 50% of responsibility, 35% responsibility is taken by the specific banks which is sponsoring a regional bank, and 15% responsibility is taken by the state government. So RRBs in India started from the 1975. Cooperative banks are established by the state laws under the state government. However, Reserve Bank of India have authorities over the cooperative banks. In the private sector, this is the ICICI Bank, the top private sector banks established in 1955. And there is another concept of the banking, the nationalization of the banking. The nationalized bank means a bank, its 100% ownership or authority in the hands of union government or the state government. In India, the nationalization of banking was completed into the two phase on the 19th July 1969 by the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi made the nationalization of 14 banks that time, and the second phase 6th April 1980 when the 6 banks were nationalized. Then the nationalized bank were 20, then one was reduced, and sometimes the number of nationalized bank is changeable. Public sector banks, the government has the highest shareholdership in the banks, this is called the public sector. The scheduled banks, those banks are listed under the second schedule of RBI Act 1934, which are under the regulation of RBI, and there are some banks are not listed in the second schedule of RBI Act, so they are called the non-scheduled banks. Private sector banks, foreign banks, different kinds of banks now are working in India, and all these banks are called the commercial banks because they are working under the commercial laws, they are working under the commercial provisions, commercial laws, and their target is to ensuring or securing the profits. That is why we are saying the commercial bank. The share market, the world largest not only and the highest share market is the New York share markets, but the beginning of share market in the world from the 1602, this was the Amsterdam share market in the Holland or Netherlands city, Europe. In India, the ancient or oldest share market is the BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, established in 1875 by the British government, and it issues its index which is called the Sensex, and it includes the shares of the 30 companies. Okay, Sensex stands for the sensitive index. The next share market of India is the NSE, the National Stock Exchange, established in 1992. The headquarter of NSE is Mumbai, as the BSE has its headquarter in Bombay, the Bombay Stock Exchange. And NSE issued its index which is called the Nifty. Important question. The Nifty is a Sensex or index of the NSE, and there are around 23 share markets working in India. All the share markets and their activities are controlled by a SEBI, the central body SEBI, which was founded in 1988, and it was given the statutory status in 1992 by the Indian Parliament. All the share markets are controlled by the SEBI now, and there are different kinds of share markets or their index in the world. One is the Nikkei. Nikkei is a index of share markets of the Japan. D Jones, also called the Dow Jones, the indexation of the New York in USA. The SET, SET, the index of Thailand. TEN for the Taiwan, and next is the KOSPI. KOSPI is the index for the South Korea, and Bovespa. The Bovespa is the index for the Brazil, MIBTEL for Italy. So there are different kinds of index in the world are prevailing. So this is the important information about the share markets. Next is the inflation. Inflation the different aspects of the inflations. Inflation generally described as the increase of prices of commodities and services, and when the currency of any country loses its internal purchasing power, so generally it is referred the inflation. Inflation simply based upon the demand and supply. Demand and supply. If we have sufficient supply according to the demand, definitely there is no matter of inflation. If we have break or lost the supply or reduced supply and demand is constant or sometime increasing, definitely it leads the inflation in any country. How the inflation is measured? The measurement of inflation. Inflation is measured by the wholesale price index WPI. Wholesale price index consists so many goods and services are consumed by the peoples of any specific country, and the this is a basket. Numbers of goods and commodities is changeable. Government sometimes increase or decrease, and these goods are categorized the primary articles, fuel and powers, and the manufacturing articles. WPI is prepared by Office of Economic Affairs in the Commerce Ministry. So, this is the Ministry of Commerce and Industry under the Union Government, which is accountable for the wholesale price index. The wholesale price index mainly measures or calculate the rate of inflation at the monthly basis. At the monthly basis these are calculated, and there is another index CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which is prepared by the NSO, National Statistic Office, under the Statistics and Program Implementation Ministry, and CPI is secondary than the WPI. Mainly in India the inflation is measured through the WPI. Next, the types of inflation. There are different types of the inflation, but generally the two are studied. One is the demand pull effect. Demand pull, it means if the demand is increasing continuously and had reached at the top and the supply line have failed, definitely it will create a inflation. Second, the cost push. Cost push inflation, it means if the producing these goods and services, government has to afford a higher cost, then the cost is higher of the production, definitely it will create the higher inflation. And in the another term, this is called if the inflation is in a single digit, like the 4%, 6% or the 8%, it is affordable sometimes and called the simplest form of the inflation. If it increase in the double digit, like the 10%, 20%, 35%, definitely due to this the economy of any country may be collapse, and there are some examples where the inflation have crossed the 2 digit and have attained the inflation in 3 digit too. And in India, the concept of inflation, mainly in India, inflation is considered due to the demand based factor and the supply based factor, because in India population is increasing and the economic condition is refining. So that's why day by day the demand of different articles or goods is increasing, but we are not increasing or fastening our supply line as we compared with the demand. So it creates the inflation, in which the Indian rupee lose its internal purchasing power. This is the deflation. Deflation is just opposite of inflation. When the prices of goods and services reach its lowest level, because the supply line is too much, demand is not increasing, sometimes it is at the constant level. So the deflation is the lowering of the prices of the goods and services, inflation is the increasing of the prices of goods and services. And there is the another concept called the reflation. Reflation, when the if any economy is increasing under the deflation for a long duration, so now government have to create demand, and to creating demand government artificially increase the inflation. So artificially increment of inflation is called the reflation. And the next is the disinflation. The disinflation means what? The strategies or process are taken by the government to reduce the amount of inflation. It is called the disinflation, through which we brings down the prices of commodities. Or last, this is the stagflation. Stagflation is a phenomena in which sometimes the higher degree of unemployment and the higher prices of commodities are seen together, but it is a short phenomena only. The next is the poverty in India. Concept of poverty. First, who is a poor person? In economy, the person which do not have the basic goods for surviving or for living. The person who is deprived from the basic goods and facilities is called poor person, and the concept is called the poverty. In India, the poverty first measured on the basis of calorie formula. So this was the calorie formula in India, in which the three parameters were determined. In the rural areas, if a person is not securing 2400 calories per day, it means he is not capable to attaining all the foods, articles for surviving. So he is called poor person in rural areas. In urban areas, if a person is failed to securing 2100 calories per day, then he is poor in urban areas. And the average condition, what was the average? This was 2250 calorie, the average of India. But now the calorie formula has given up in India, and in place of this we have adopted the more diverse and scientific, this is the MPI, multiple poverty index, according to the international agency or UNDP. In India from the 2009 we have adopted this. This was the Suresh Tendulkar, famous economist of India. Now he is no more, and he adopted this concept, in which B includes a baskets of minimum goods, not simply the food, which was basic items of the calorie formula, except the food, the education level of the person, second the medical and the health facilities available to the person, what is the purchasing power, economic position, and what is the social status of the person. So different things or items or parameters are included to measure actual position of a person under the MPI formula. So this is more scientific, we are adopting this now, and there are the three main component of this: the education, earning power and medical and the health facility. If a person do not have these facilities, definitely he is considered a poor person. The concept is the poverty. And what are the types of poverty in India? Not only in India, throughout the world, the types of poverty, there are the two main types. One is the absolute poverty, and the relative poverty. Absolute poverty, in which the number of peoples are separated from the whole population of a country. The number of peoples, those are not eligible to maintaining the basic facilities or basic goods for surviving. And the absolute poverty is measured by the head count method. Important question. The head count method is used for the absolute poverty. And for the relative poverty, the meaning of the relative poverty is when we compare living standard of the two groups. One, the people surviving at the bottom level or people at the top level. When we compare on the different ground, the education, earning, medical and health facilities, so this is called the relative poverty, and which is measured by the two method. One is the Lorenz curve, and second by the Gini coefficient. This is the Gini coefficient, right? And now, what are the different measures taken by the government for the alleviation of poverty? Measures. In India, for the long time, it was a debatable concept how to measure a poverty and actually who is a poor person in country. So in India, different kinds of measures has been taken by the union government and the states government, and also the NGOs are playing important role for the poverty alleviation. However, we have reduced a degree and amount of poverty in India. Still there are numbers of millions of peoples are surviving below the poverty line. The poverty line is determined as the BPL, below poverty line, and those person have exceed this line are called the above the poverty line, the APL. The next is unemployment. What is the concept of unemployment? First, this is the manpower or the workforce. What is the workforce in any country? The peoples between the age of 18 to 59 or sometime the 65 are called the workforce or manpower, because they are mentally physically fit and they can be employed for the productive activities. And in this workforce, we derived the concept of employment. The fully employed person means what? According to the government of India, if a person is involving for the 273 days out of 365 or 1 year, for 4 to 8 hours is a fully employed person, and if a person is involved only for 4 hours or below the 4 hours is called the semi or partially employed. If a person does not have any kinds of involvement for a single hour, the 0 hour is called the fully unemployed person. In India, this is called the demographic dividend. Demographic dividend means what? India has the highest amount or large size of the productive age, but we are not able to involve all these person for the producing activities. And there are the two types of unemployment in India and in the world. Simply one is the voluntary unemployment or the involuntary unemployment. Under the voluntary unemployment, a person is unemployed according to his choice because he is not interested to work at the term and condition of market. And under the involuntary unemployment, a person is unemployed due to the market crisis. Market is not providing any kinds of job to the peoples. However, person is interested to involve in jobs. And further, these are divided into the developing and developed countries. In India, this is a basic form of unemployment is the structural unemployment found in India. The structure of Indian economy is too narrow to shrink, is not capable to employ all the peoples. But in America, Japan, the developed countries, they are facing sometimes the cyclic unemployment for the declining in the trade cycles, and this is the friction unemployment for the short duration. But in India, this is the structural problem, and again it is divided into the rural unemployment and the urban unemployment. In rural area, this is a disguised or the seasonal unemployment where the any person or farmer can job during the rainy season, and mostly he is called the unemployed. In urban area, this is the open unemployment. The open unemployment can be seen at the large scale in the urban areas, and the literate unemployed peoples. Literary unemployment is a important part of the urban unemployment. And the next is some information about the balance of payment BOP and the balance of trade the BOT. In any country there are the two kinds of accounts. One is the current account of a government, and further it is divided into the visible account and the invisible account. Visible account deals with the import export of the goods only. Invisible include the export import of the services. The current accounts include visible and invisible, and this is the second account is the capital account. Capital accounts. Okay. In India, basically this is a problem of balance of payment, not simply the balance of trade. In the balance of trade, we generally calculate the amount of import and export in a current year. Because generally India is a deficit economic country, because here the amount of import is higher than the export. So we are recording a loss at the visible account. Sometimes the visible losses are fulfilled by the invisible accounts, but they are too much. So to cover these losses, we have to borrow money at the capital accounts. The India is basically facing the balance of payment problem, and it is unfavorable or against to India. Since the independence, basically it is against the India. And next is some international organization. During the Second World War, at the Bretton Woods city of USA in 1944, a meeting was held for the foundation of the international organization, where the two important decisions were taken. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund were founded. World Bank was founded in 1944, started working from the 1945. IMF was founded in 1945. The headquarters of World Bank and IMF both at the Washington DC. DC is a district, Columbia is a states of USA, and Washington is its capital. And World Bank is a group of the 5 organization, includes the IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction Development, IDA, International Development Agency, also called the soft loan window, and this is the IFC, International Finance Corporation, MEGA, and the ICSID, while the IMF is a single body. World Bank basically provides loan or other financial assistance for the development activities, and it publishes the World Development Report, WDR reports for the each countries. And IMF basically functions or provide facility for the balance of payment, for the facilitating international trade and commerce. It issue the SDR. Special drawing rights is a unit of accounts electronically issued in 1969. So highest values are recorded in the dollar currency. So this is the SDR of IMF. The IMF accountable for the balance of trade or balance of payment, while the World Bank for the development. And this is the WTO, World Trade Organization, founded in 1st January 1995, and before the WTO this was the GATT organization, General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, founded in 1947 and came into existence from the 1948, and it was replaced in 1995 by the WTO, and the decision for the formation of WTO was taken in 1994 at the Morocco. Morocco is a country of Africa. Morocco, the Marrakesh Conference, and the headquarter of the WTO is the Geneva city, the Geneva city of Switzerland. WTO basically provides the facility for the international trade among the all the members, and different kinds of agreements has been made by the WTO with the different countries. The other TRIPS agreement, the trade related intellectual property rights are deals by the WTO, and this is the NAMA agreement, non agriculture market access for the manufacturing sector, the GATS agreement, general agreement on trade in services, and there are the other agreements. And WTO now is the supreme financial organization other than the IMF and the World Bank. So this is the information about the Indian economy. So now you can take help from the other videos we have presented, targeting all the subjects in simplest form. Different kinds of GK question you can cover from these videos. So thank you.